Coronation presents Firebreaker, The Legend of George and the Dragon. Chapter 6, The Journey to Silene.
Whoa, Grandfather, can we have more explosions?
That's not how I remembered.
Because explosions are exciting and,
how it truly happened.
Please.
No, all right, if you insist. Just then, from across the dark river, a huge explosion rang out. No. This is all wrong.
Aww.
Listen, young man. Who's telling this story anyway?
You are?
Then I shall tell it as it truly happened. Understood?
Yes, Grandfather.
Ah, very good. Now, where was I?
George and Demetrius were at the river.
Yes. Anyway. As the sun rose, George and Demetrius prepared to set off on their journey.
How far is Silene?
Nearly 3 days' ride, Sir George.
George. Just George is fine.
George swung up onto Michael's back.
Well, I don't know exactly what lies ahead.
George searched the wilderness behind them. Far off in the distance, he could see a column of smoke rising.
But I also don't know what's behind us. We better set a good pace.
Ha! I'll race you then. Yeah!
Yeah!
The two followed the winding river south all day through one rugged valley after another. That night, they camped in a large cave overlooking the clear water.
This is good.
Eat up. It may be our last food till we reach your home.
George looked at the young boy devouring the several fish he had caught in the stream.
Those who follow the dragon, the cult, what are they like?
The closer they get to the dragon, the more they change, both inside and outside.
How?
Their skin, their eyes, the smell. Oh, you'll see.
Are they many?
No, but their power is great. Some of our people have surrendered to the dragon completely. Some are on our side, but most are in the middle somewhere, weak, ruled by fear. Even the king.
Even the king.
He is older now and weaker. Not like you, Sir George. If you kill the dragon, I'm sure that all of Silene would want you as their king.
As they ate, George couldn't help but turn those words over in his mind. Defeating a dragon, saving a princess, armed with an ancient, powerful weapon. Being a centurion no longer seemed so grand. King George, the dragon slayer? George shook himself.
Finish your dinner.
George and Demetrius rode on all through the next day. At sunset, they came to a hill overlooking a beautiful green valley. Along the river rose a majestic city with gleaming towers at each corner of its rugged walls. George looked out across the valley in awe.
Silene.
But then, as if an invisible fog had fallen, the air felt cool, wet, and thick. George's eyes drifted from the great towers of Silene to the misty green swamp surrounding it. He felt intoxicated, as if something was reaching out, pulling at his heart. He imagined all of the countless riches of the deep waters and the glowing maw of the creature inside it. His hand tightened around his sword. Thoughts of the glory of conquest twisted around his mind like a constricting serpent. George shuddered.
Oh,
This wasn't going to be easy. Demetrius dismounted and began searching through the bushes at the edge of the cliff.
There are some who patrol the perimeter who are not yet in the cult, but wish they were. Be on guard.
What are you looking for?
I need to let our friends know we're here so they can... Aha!
Out of the bushes, the boy pulled a lantern with metal doors. He crept to the edge of the cliff and lit the lantern.
Come.
George tied the horses and crouched down next to him. Demetrius raised the lantern, then opened and closed its front door in a pattern of flashes. Long, short, short.
Now we watch.
After a few moments, a faint light appeared in the tower window, flashing a pattern. Short, long, short, long.
Good. They know we're here. All we have to do now is make it through the...
Just then, the horses began to whinny. The two heard something approaching through the bushes in the trees behind them. They swung around. George drew his sword. Demetrius threw open the lantern's door. Suddenly, out of the trees rushed two wolves. Blinded by the lantern light, they stopped and stumbled about. From the trees behind them emerged four large, odd-looking men, wielding rough clubs. They looked as though their flesh was smoldering, with small, scaly scabs covering their faces. Nevertheless, they looked strong enough to give George and Demetrius trouble.
Who goes there? Friend or foe?
Friend!
Prove it.
Draco mihi dux sit dominus meus Draco.
Now, that's more like it. Call off the dogs, boys. They're all right. They're all right.
The ugly men lowered their clubs and calmed their wolves. The leader approached, inching closer into the light. On his skin were patches of scaly sores. He had only two brown, misshapen teeth in his mouth, and across his back was a huge hump. The wolves whimpered and sniffed. The men gave off an almost unbearable stench.
Put up your sword there, Romy. Any friend of Keiko's is a friend of ours.
George looked nervously at Demetrius, who nodded quickly.
Now then, what's a Romy soldier, a skinny Silenian, and a couple of forbidden horses doing out here this time of night? Go on, but don't all talk at once. I only got one good ear and one good eye. Come on then, out with it.
Citizen, the Roman here, Valeri Maximus,
George raised an eyebrow at him.
is an emissary from the Emperor. He has business with the king.
Secret business. Very secret.
I was sent to accompany him, and we will, of course, leave the horses in the city stable.
Right. Very good, very good. But what about this then? You both stink to high heaven. Me dogs smell you from a mile away.
Well, that would be because we have been away from the sweetness of Keikos for all our journey.
Then come here, brother. Bring it in. Group hug.
The scaly guards smothered them in a slimy embrace, which, in George's mind, lasted an eternity.
Soak up some delicious dragon smell. Welcome home. Welcome home, brother.
George was just about to pass out from the stench when they finally withdrew.
Well, thank you, brothers. Keikos be praised.
Keikos be praised. Right, carry on then.
And with that, the guards and their wolves disappeared into the woods. George wiped the slime from his face.
Wow. Just... wow.
I know, right?
Now what?
I have a plan.
Oh boy.
In the shadows outside the gate, Demetrius finished stuffing George into the large cloth sack packed on Michael's back.
Sorry.
You know, it doesn't smell very good in here.
Sorry. Maybe just, I don't know, hold your breath. It's just until we get past the sentry.
The boy led the two horses with George hidden on Michael's back past the sleepy sentry at the front gate.
Hey, boy, you know the rules. Straight to the stable with those animals.
Yes, of course.
Easy, boy, easy.
We made it. Now, let's get you out of there, Mr. George.
Just George, remember? Whew. Now, Michael, you get to know your new friends in here and have yourself a little rest. We may have need of you all before long.
George dusted himself off and turned to Demetrius.
So, where are...
Out of nowhere, a hooded woman holding an ornate bow with an arrow nocked and ready emerged from the shadows. She glanced quickly at George, then turned to Demetrius.
You're late. Follow me.
Silently, the woman led them down the city's dark streets. At a corner, another hooded figure emerged from the shadows.
My brother, Zoe. Thank God.
They exchanged a quick embrace.
Circle around the square and scout ahead.
She nodded silently and slipped back into the shadows. Finally, they came to the public square. The woman motioned for them to stop and crouch down behind a stone wall at its entrance.
The city is so quiet.
No one leaves their houses at night. Well, no one leaves in the day.
Silence, you two.
On the east side of the square rose a crumbling church, and in the center stood a large stone fountain. On the far side, up a hill, sat a majestic building. The woman pointed a finger up the hill.
The palace.
Eyes still fixed on the square, she leaned toward Demetrius.
Their patrols have doubled since you left. Follow closely, not a sound. Especially from you.
She poked George in the chest.
Roman.
Crouching low, they set out across the square. As they passed the church, George glanced at its entrance. An enormous, crude statue of a menacing dragon blocked the front doors. Just as they reached the fountain, the woman motioned for them to stop. They dropped to the ground behind its stone base. 4 large cultist men in strange robes stopped on the opposite side of the fountain. A familiar stench wafted over George and the others.
Sentry said that a boy came in with 2 horses tonight.
Silently, the woman drew back her bowstring and let fly an arrow across the courtyard. It struck the dragon statue square in the mouth, breaking off its teeth.
What was that? Over there! Come on!
The 3 hurried up the hill toward the farthest corner of the palace. The woman reached into a small hole in the palace wall. An opening appeared in the wall. The woman disappeared into it. George looked at Demetrius.
Good plan.
The woman quickly led them across a large, beautifully decorated marble hall. At the far end sat a distinguished, bearded man on a regal throne. His face was weary and distant.
Your Majesty.
She drew back her hood. Long, silky brown hair spilled out from under it. On her head was a delicate, jeweled crown. She flashed a quick glance toward George, then turned to the man on the throne and curtsied.
Is that you, my daughter?
George stared at the beautiful young woman in astonishment. At the other edge of the city, in a dark chamber surrounded with gold and treasure, a group of cloaked figures in elegant masks gathered in a circle.
My counsel, Caicos the Great has spoken. The sacrifice he now desires is the daughter of King Cosmo, Princess Aya.
Next time on Firebreaker.
I beg you, Father. Wake from your slumber. Come to your senses. Listen to my voice.
The king gazed at her.
We must not lose another innocent soul to that demon.
You have been listening to Firebreaker, the legend of George and the Dragon. Firebreaker is a Coronation Media production, starring David Henrie and Elizabeth Tabish. Directed by Jim Morlino. Written by Jim Morlino and Dominic Morlino. Original score by Kevin Kasker. With sound design by Michael Moen. Executive producer, Bill Phillips. Executive producer and showrunner, Gary Gores. For a full cast and crew listing, please visit our website, firebreakerseries.com.